Today I'm going to be setting up file services for Macintosh with Appletalk support on Windows Server 2003, specifically R2 Enterprise, though other versions of 2003 should be very similar. I'm running it in Hyper-V, but ESXi, VMware Workstation, VirtualBox, running on bare metal, the process should be pretty much the same for all different platforms. So the first thing that I'm going to do is enable the Appletalk support on my interface here. And we're going to go to install protocol, Appletalk. And if you know you're only going to be working with newer Macs and you don't need Appletalk support, you can do Apple Share over IP. You don't have to do this, but I'm doing it because I'm going to work with older Macs too. Alright, so now that that's installed, we can then go to Administrative Tools, Routing and Remote Access, and this has picked up the fact that we have Appletalk enabled, so we need to go ahead and configure and enable Routing and Remote Access. We can do a custom configuration with LAN routing. Go ahead and install the service. This will take a moment. And we want to enable Appletalk routing. This also takes a moment. Properties. And we're going to enable seed routing. And we don't need a very big network range, especially in my case, just a couple of hosts. If you have other Appletalk servers on your network, you should probably be aware of this. Though those zones should also be pulled through as well. So we're going to make a new zone here, MacServe, apply it. Okay. Okay, looks like that's done. So now what we can do, and this may not have come through yet, but we could check it. So I have my iMac G4 running OS 9 here, connected through Timbuktu, and I can open up Appletalk. And we see our zone is pulled through, so we have MacServe. So that's a good sign. So now, let's go ahead and set up the file server. So, I found that the best way to do this is actually to install the file server role first, and then go in after the fact and enable services for Macintosh. So this will give us the opportunity to enable services for Macintosh right up front, but we don't want to enable this yet. This may just be my particular install media, but I found that if you enable this up front, you're going to have issues, so we'll enable it later. And I thought I had that disk mounted, but I guess not. We'll go ahead and reboot. Right, now that it's all the way up, we're then going to go to Control Panels, Add to Remove Programs, Windows Components, going to go down to Other Network and File Print Services, hit Details, enable File Services for Macintosh, hit OK, hit Next. Finish. And now pull up Computer Management and expand Shared Folders. And right-click on Shared Folders first. Actually, we want to do Configure File Server for Macintosh. So make that lowercase. Add a logon message. And the big thing to do here is to change authentication. So in my case, I'm going to do Apple Clear Text just to make sure it works. Go ahead and apply this. Apple Encrypted should also work, but it may have trouble with older versions of macOS. On my LAN, I'm not too concerned about this. If you're using this over the internet, you should probably use encrypted authentication. We don't need to change anything about our file associations, and we have no session, so that's fine. Go ahead, OK. And under shares, we'll automatically get one Macintosh share that is this UAM volume. And you'll see what that is here in a moment. So if I then go back over to my Mac, and I open up Chooser, and we select Apple Share, is my file server, and I say OK. And I realize I don't actually have a user yet, so this will not work. Let me add myself local user here. Do that right here. Now that should work. And see, here's our UAM volume. Hit OK. I get my splash screen. Welcome to MacServe. And then here is my Microsoft UAM volume. And there's a README here if you want some more context. And essentially what this is this is an installer that it puts in an extension that allows you to use strong passwords. So if you want to use Active Directory authentication, or just the built-in users that might have longer usernames, longer passwords, this gives you support for that. And there's an installer for Apple Share 3.6. That's for System 7, and then for 3.8 as well. And you can run the installer, but all it does is copy over an extension. So that extension is just right here. And you can, of course, pull this off manually and put it in place on your own. You don't have to use this installer. You don't have to use this directory. But now we can go back to Computer Management, which I shouldn't have closed. Go back to Shared Folders, Shares. Let's go ahead and add a new share. And I made a data volume specifically for this. It doesn't have to be on a data volume. And we'll just call this Mac. And we want Macintosh users. In this case, I don't want to share this to Windows users, so I'm going to uncheck that. Hit Next. When you turn off Windows users, that forces you to use custom shared folder permissions. That's perfectly fine. By default, all the shares are set to read-only, so we can fix that as well. So I'm going to close that. Yeah, so I'll check read-only. Apply. Okay, so again, MacServe. Still got my credentials cached. There's my Mac volume. And there it is. And I can now copy files to it. Except my user does not have privileges. Right. So what do we need to do? Well, we need to go and give my user permission to the shares. And I'll just go ahead and give me full control. fly, hit OK. That should propagate automatically. I don't think I have to reconnect, but I may. Yep, looks like I do. Let's go ahead and disconnect from both these volumes. Reconnect to mixer. Make sure there's, yeah, it's just some benchmark results, nothing huge. There we go. And just like that, we have file sharing working. So it's really not that difficult a process. It's just lots of little steps that you kind of have to get in the right order, and it's taken me a few days troubleshooting. Obviously, I still haven't gotten it perfectly nailed down, but it's a worthwhile process. This has a few advantages over Appletalk on Linux, so this may be a better solution for your use cases.